Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. Okay, so for this message, I just kept hearing over and over again, context is key. Context is key. They just want me to keep saying that to you. Context is key. Context is key. That's really something your guides are trying to assist you with. Now, there's a couple sides to this coin, and I don't know what side you're on, like how this message should sit or land. And I do feel like that's part of the message. Is they're saying context is key. In fact, I think a lot of you could have been drawn into tarot and like the experience of tarot and like general messages to help you work out this problem for yourself, not just the problem that you're dealing with, but sussing out through context and learning this broader lesson of like context is key. And I'm going to tell you what I mean, but like I said, I don't know how this message is supposed to land with you. And again, I feel like that's kind of the point here, but I think some of you could be in a situation where someone has moved away from you. And there's tower energy around this. So you could have been very suddenly shocked that someone moved away from you, or maybe you did a tower moment on this person in some way, like your behavior was like unexpected or sudden or shocking, and this person moved away from you. And I feel like this person has really balanced out their energies. You see this person as being like very stable or peaceful or calm, and you're wondering how they did that, or you're wondering how they knew something about you or a situation, how they knew to do that. And the answer is that context is key. So I feel like this person maybe is very good at context clues, or they had certain context clues that you may or may not have known about. It's like they were able to put something together. And I'm picturing like when you set up a tent, outside, it's like when you're setting up the base of the tent, it's like you have the stakes that you kind of nail into the ground, and those are pretty immovable, right? And then you connect the stakes by like attaching like the base of the tent like to each of the stakes, and so the stakes are like the immovable bit. And so I feel like they're connecting the dots, if that makes sense. It's like they're connecting certain context clues that are all kind of pointing to the same conclusion or something like that. I think that's part of the message for some of you. But for others of you, I feel like you're trying to work your way through a problem. Like you could be in need of advice in some arena of your life. And you could be reaching out to people, or you could be doing research to try to figure out like the best move, like what's best for you, or how to structure a plan, like out of a situation or towards a goal or something here like that. And Spirit's saying, look, that is wonderful. You're on the right track with that, but context is key. And I feel like what is meant by that is don't go, like you have to be able to put people in their place, right? And see the interconnectivity of everything. See the system, see the roles clearly, see the energy moving, and you've got to be the decision maker in your own life. It's like you've got to be the emperor. You've got to be the decision maker. These people that you might be going to, whether they're tarot readers or whether it's, some kind of expert advice in something, like if you need financial advice, maybe you sought out like an accountant or some kind of financial planner, or if you're planning a vacation or a move, like whatever it is, a career change, you're going to a career counselor. You could be seeking out these people with like authoritative opinions or people that you trust, and that's all well and good, but these are not decision makers. You're the decision maker. They can share with you information, and so that's kind of the message that's coming across, is like, so long as you put these people, places, and things in the right context, then you're on the right track, and I feel like regardless of, those are just the two scenarios that I'm picking up on, like I said, the two sides of the coin. And some of you may be in situations where both sides of that coin are relevant to you, but it's like you're one side of the coin and someone else is another. I can't get too close to this. They just keep saying context is key, context is key. They want you to honor the context, value the context, pay attention to the context. And I feel like somehow, regardless of how this is landing for you, I feel like this somehow connects to like responsibility as a healthy form of control. So control may be a variable here. Like some of you could be escaping like an authoritarian situation or someone else's control. Others of you could have been trying to dominate someone else, and maybe when they pulled away from you, or they could sense that, that was a tower moment for you, and you're like, how did they sense the control? Or how did, you could have even been trying to control just what they saw about you or something, right? But I feel like there's a contrasting here with control tactics and like domination and like authoritarian energy versus responsibility. And I keep hearing that responsibility as a healthy control. So I feel like you're being asked here, like, what do you have responsibility for, in your life? And this is kind of, even though you might go to certain people for advice, like the responsibility of navigating your life and of making decisions and of certain outcomes that you want to achieve, like that responsibility is like with you. But for some of you, again, I think you could be maybe dealing with someone who's very controlling, and they could be trying to blame you for things that are outside of your control, or just because maybe it's just because you had the audacity to like move away from this person or challenge their advice. But I think something like that could have tipped you off. Like, again, there's difference between advice and like domination. So this person might like to say that they give advice, but then if you don't take their advice, then they get angry or they retaliate. That's not just advice anymore. That's tyranny. And I feel like there's something here where like you're sussing through the details. You're sussing through the nuance. And somehow making, like, I'm literally seeing like a map or a chart where you're kind of outlining like, okay, well, whose plate is it on? Like the responsibilities in the situation. How much of this is on my plate? How much of this is on someone else's plate? Like what parts of this can I take responsibility over? And I'm hearing the serenity prayer, which is kind of a running theme on my channel, but it's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I feel like maybe going through this responsibility exercise of like, well, what am I responsible for? What things can I control in that healthy, responsible way? But also, I'm hearing like the whole Eleanor Roosevelt thing. She's got a really good quote about rights and responsibilities and how it's two sides of the same coin. And I always compare that to America because I'm American, and we hear a lot of talk about rights in America. And the other side of the coin to rights is responsibilities. Yes, we have certain rights, but we also have responsibilities to preserve those that we're able to exercise our rights, But we don't often hear responsibility thrown around in American rhetoric, especially American political rhetoric, as much as you hear rights. And on a personal level, to me, talking about rights, it's like entitlement. What things are you entitled to? But I feel like there's something about this scenario that's personal. So in a personal realm, like what things are you entitled to from another person? I feel like there's a confusion here, like in this space. But I feel like this one's hard for me. I feel like I'm just kind of piecing things together. I have to kind of like feel this out. Some of you could be feeling like you can't escape something. I feel like there's a fear of freedom here. That's ultimately, I think, what maybe you're going to realize. Maybe it's fear of someone else, like of someone getting away. But I'm hearing this with you. Like, I think there could be a fear of freedom here. And I don't think you might recognize that that's what it is, because I think it looks like something else. I think it looks like a fear of taking responsibility. If you took responsibility for something in this situation, what does that mean? What does that mean about you? What does that mean about, I'm hearing like, are you going to be made to take accountability for other things? Like, could it set off some kind of a domino effect? So it could show up as like a fear of taking responsibility of some kind, like fear of owning up to something. But I think there's another side to the equation here where it could be like maybe there's a fear of taking responsibility for your choices and outcomes. Like really sticking the landing and saying, no, this is my choice. I'm going after this because this is what I want. Because then if it fails, it's like on you, But if it succeeds, it's on you. But what if it fails? Like it's on you. I feel like there's a fear of this. It's showing up as this fear of like, what if I take this big leap? Or what if I go in this direction? And then it all kind of falls apart. It's like you want to have somebody to blame. Oh, I'm hearing a lyric to a song. It's like, oh, I gotta find somebody to blame. The emotions that I'm harboring about to drive me insane. Tried to say F everything, but I didn't have the heart to. Rarely had the heart to do a lot of things I ought to. That's Angel Hayes. So now I spit it for people who say they floor's missing. Yeah, so that's about like finding your purpose. So I think this is a major karmic lesson, and maybe there's like ambivalence or this like ambiguity, like you feel pulled in multiple directions, like very fervently. Like that could be the case for some of you, and you don't know which direction to go through. But this comes back to like know thyself. You have to know who you are, know what you want, because when you know what that is, and then you want to bring that about. And now I'm hearing another quote that says, if you bring about what is inside of you, what's inside of you will save you. If you don't bring it about, then what's inside of you will destroy you. And I feel like all of this comes down to self-knowledge in some kind of way. That's the answer that you seek. The answer that you seek is self-knowledge, which will in turn, I feel like, give you courage, and it will give you confidence to move through this world with confidence and to believe in yourself and to know that you probably will fail, but it won't seem like this like life-crushing event. So some of you could have seen someone leave you, like really stick the landing on a strong choice, or, you know, leave some kind of authoritarian environment, even though it maybe took a lot of risk. Even though I'm kind of getting the Murgashira energy of like just having exited the Garden of Eden, and I think you're wanting to replicate that for yourself, or that's what I feel like God is kind of whispering to you. Like, did you see how that person did that? Because I feel like you see this person as smaller than you somehow, maybe. Under your thumb. Under your thumb, goof. It could be that this person is like a child, or they just have traits that you would think, well, it would be harder for them. And if they can do it, I can do it. And I feel like this person has showed you the way almost, you know, like, and they showed you that if they can do it, then you can do it. I feel like there's a higher purpose to whatever. Yeah, it's like they leaped and you're like, how did you do that? You know, and it's because they know themselves and they know what they want and they know if it's on offer or if it's not. So it's kind of like a rudder. That's how this person steers themselves through life, is by taking full responsibility, like for themselves, for whatever this person can take responsibility for. I feel like they do. I actually feel like it might have been weaponized against this person, and they might have the opposite lesson than maybe some of you, or places that you're used to being around, people that you're used to surrounding, where this person overtakes responsibility for things that actually are a joint effort, or it's not fully within their control. And so they've had to take less and less responsibility for things. But yeah, so context is key. I just want to come back to that. And somehow this comes into all these things that I was talking about. Responsibility is a healthy form of control. Your own fear of freedom that somehow is played out in a circumstance here. And authoritarianism as a method of escape. So it could be that maybe some of you become very authoritarian or domineering, and you focus on whatever it is that you're trying to control, like whether that's another person or like certain outcomes. You focus on that as a means of distraction. I just heard it's an abuse of the focus energy. And it's funny because like in spirituality, we try to train the mind and we try to like train our focus. That's what meditation is, and, you know, try to keep ourselves from distraction. I feel like this is a group that has focus, but maybe abuses that focus by putting it everywhere but yourself as a means of distraction. So that's for some of you. That's for those of you who it's like maybe you get very controlling. And I'm hearing it, that NF lyric. It's like, I always try to control things. I guess that's why I'm controlling, something like that. And I feel like there's another group here though where you could subconsciously seek out authoritarian types. I don't think you would know that you're doing this on purpose, but I think you might seek out authoritarian types or environments because it takes the pressure off for you making your own choices and decisions, and it takes the pressure off of being held responsible for achieving certain outcomes or having to regroup and try again if they don't work, you know. And I feel like it's a relief to be able to outsource that to another person. And that I'm hearing the two sides of the same coin thing together. So it's like you could have involved with the opposite kind of person, if that makes sense. But somebody here could be breaking free of this cycle. There's definitely, now I'm seeing like definitely there's karma here. And there's a paradox in this situation. Sorry guys, this one's hard for me. I hope this is making sense. It's like I have to jump from like lily pad to lily pad with this one. It's not coming through in like a steady stream because I do feel like there is karma involved, and there could be I think this is mirroring the way the lessons have unfolded in this situation, because I feel like you have kind of jumped from lily pad to lily pad. Your guides have been kind of guiding you one step at a time, like, hey, you need to understand this, and now you need to understand this, and now you need to understand this. And it's like at the end, after you've collected, gotta catch them all, after you've caught all the Pokemons, learned all those lessons, then we're gonna put it together and you're gonna understand that kind of karmic cycle. So I feel like it's this stutter stop kind of thing, and you learning this lesson, you haven't really known where it is that you're going, but it's like they have to kind of walk you up to it. They have to kind of lead you up to it. And I'm hearing like it's not a crutch. Context is key. So it could be that somebody here doesn't want a crutch and they moved away from you, and that could surprise you because maybe you were in a codependent relationship with this person before Or maybe you thought you were. I don't know what your relationship was like or how long it went on, but I think maybe in a past life there could have been a codependent relationship, even if this person has like kind of, I just heard yeeted out the back door, like freed themselves from this. And I feel like that's the paradox then, because they've got the power now. I got the power. But the power that they have, they didn't take any power from you. And if you're used to playing that more authoritarian role, it might feel like somebody here has taken power away from you. But they just took their own power back. They kind of gave you more power in the situation, I think, either earlier on in your relationship or in previous lives than really they should have. And they did that because maybe they were trained to, or they got comfortable, or they didn't want to take responsibility for their own consequences. It's nice for this person to say, well, I was just doing what they told me to do, or I was just living up to your expectations. And I feel like they've wrangled that power back, and it's actually a beautiful thing. And I feel like that's why you're seeing them maybe thriving or healing or something, because they took that leap of faith, but they took it with spirit, and they trusted in themselves. And I think you actually are wanting to do the same thing in your life, because that codependency, I'm hearing that like kind of goes both ways. So maybe for some of you, you're like a switch hitter, where it's like in some areas of your life, you really want to wrangle that control. You're an authoritarian or like a perfectionist, or maybe you do, I don't know, you try to control things like outside of yourself to the point of driving you and maybe other people crazy. But then you overgive in other areas of your life where maybe you should stand up for yourself more, or you should have more control. And it's like kind of all out of whack and out of balance there. So again, I think maybe you've seen this demonstrated, but Spirit is saying it's not about the jump. Okay. It's not about this leap. Because I feel like some of you, it's like you're wanting that. I also feel like there's a fixation on a person here who might be defensive. And they're right to patrol their boundaries because they've realized something here, and they've busted out of this cycle here. And it feels like you have to also leave the cycle if you're going to go meet up with this person. They could have felt like things were unfair. But Spirit is saying for you, don't get it twisted. I think you saw this person jump and you don't understand. I'm hearing context is key. You don't understand the context of their jump because a lot went on inside of themselves. It's like personal or private, or it's just something that, I don't know. So you don't understand the context of this person's jump. But it's something like they know who they are. I just heard, you know who you are, don't take the bait. They know who they are, and they know what they saw, and they know what the context clues are. They're really good at the process. They knew the process inside and out. There was a well-worn road here that they knew, and they used it to guide their steps. So don't just jump because you're like, well, this person jumped, and if I just jump, then it's going to work for me the same way it worked for them. Not necessarily. It comes down to like know thyself and taking responsibility. Something about like knowing when to take responsibility. Responsibility is a healthy form of control. Knowing, again, I go back to the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think you are wanting to change something here, which is to exert some level of control over your environment, which we are all powerful beings, and we all can do that. And we are invited to do that in a way that is in balance and harmony with all things. But I feel like you don't know what part of the situation you can change and what part you can't. And I think a big clue to this is you can change yourself. You have control over yourself and your actions and the place from which your actions come from. And that sounds like maybe small things, but they're actually big things. And I think it's those places within yourself that you should be focusing on or focusing your attention on. You can take all the advice in the world from qualified advisors, and you're not being discouraged from doing that. But you need to know that that's what it is. It's advice, and that you are the emperor of your life, and other people are the emperor of their life, and they're the decision makers, and we all have to take responsibility for our decisions. Okay, well, this person said this. Yeah, well, you made the decision. Okay? You know, I'm thinking of like commercials and stuff. Well, the commercial told you to, jump now for 3 easy payments of $9.99. Like, but you don't always, right? Because you recognize it's just a suggestion, and that comes from like their perspective, and you have to weigh that out. Like, does this fit right with me? So, and again, I don't think all of you struggle with that, maybe all the time. Like I said, I don't know what side of the coin that you are on. And I don't know if this is your energy or maybe somebody that you're dealing with that could be very confused about like how you knew certain things. There's a key here. I feel like you're searching for a key. You want a certain door to unlock for you. And that's what's kind of led you on this journey. But this is an inner journey. This is hermit journey. This is a karmic cycle. and there are obstacles. The obstacles that are put in your path are there for a reason, and they're teaching you something. So don't try to weasel around the obstacles. That's lacking wisdom, and you are going to have a negative consequence, either immediately or somewhere down the line, because it's a checkpoint, right? It's some kind of like checkpoint. So anyways, I feel like I'm rambling, but yeah, I'm hearing context is key. Context is key. Well, actually, like, let me just describe one more thing, because I'm seeing Caleb Hammer in my mind. He's a YouTuber. He does financial audit. He's not a very likable personality, and because of that, he's very likable, if that makes sense. That's paradox. There's paradox energy here. And it could just be like, because I think what makes him endearing, at least for me, is that he's 100% himself. He doesn't try to polish anything or gloss anything. And the other thing too, it's like Caleb Hammer is the perfect example of, don't go looking for what's not on offer, right? Because you have to know what he is, and have to know how to use his skill set, because he is not a very good person to help you understand like why things are the way that they are, right? Like, he doesn't understand the brokenness of certain systems that lead to people having financial structure, financial difficulties that are bigger than just the individual. I hope that makes sense. Like, that there are universal forces, there are societal forces that are at play that might also be contributing to why someone could be having financial difficulties, right? He doesn't understand that. But if you understand that that's not what's on offer there, his perspective is very much, well, we can't control any of those things. And he's right, on an individual level. I mean, we can always work towards systemic change, but his message is, you really shouldn't count on that, because it's outside of your control. You can take responsibility where you can take responsibility, and we have to kind of be no nonsense with ourselves about that. And if we do that and we fully ground ourselves in truth, then here is the path forward where you and only you can get yourself out of this situation, right? Not relying on systems that may or may not be there, that, rules and laws and things that may or may not change, if that makes sense, right? But his personality is like definitely not for everybody, for sure. But like, he just embodies that so much. And if you know that, okay, here's what he does really well. So when I go to his channel, or when I'm trying to like learn from him and from his perspective, I know that, he really covers this amount of ground. That's another thing with advice, is if you're going to some kind of advisor that claims to be an expert in all things, that's very sus, because really good advisors, they know what they're good at. They stay within their territory, and even if they do give you advice, because they are a person, so they may well have opinions on other things, but it's like, I feel like they'll always ground you back into like what their expertise is, what their skill set is, or their experience, or like, here's where I'm coming from with this, because they really are trying to be helpful, and they're trying to give you the context clues about their advice so that you can decide whether or not you are going to take that advice. And there's a little dance there of respect, and there could be a conflation here of like an advisory role and authoritarian role. Either like somebody watching on the receiving end could be watching somebody speak very certainly about a realm that they are very educated in. And they could, because somebody is speaking like they're confident in their knowledge, they could be misinterpreting that as some kind of authoritarian stance, and it isn't. They're speaking confidently and trying to give a lot of context clues. And I feel like they're doing it in an appropriate context. And you can see that when you put this person and you put everything in context, you can see that this person is being an advisor, but they're actually not very authoritarian, right? There's some kind of conflation. That's on the receiving end of conflating those two energies. They're an advisory role and an authoritarian. But then there's somebody who, I think in a practicing role, might conflate authoritarianism with an advisory role. Like, okay, well, I'm just here to give you advice, but then again, they retaliate every time you don't listen to their advice. Okay, so now that I've rambled for a billion years, that's really all I'm getting, but context is key. That's what I'm hearing. Context is key, and there's definitely two sides of the same coin here. Something about two sides of the same coin, and context is key. Two sides of the same coin, and context is key. Some of you are seeing two people here that maybe display these things, or you are one of these people, and someone else is a different type of person, but it's in the details. I just heard the devil is in the details. There's nuance. There's a refinement here. And a lot of times I've learned this in my life. People who are really, really good at their job, I mean, the differences are just so subtle, right? It's like just so subtle, very nuanced. But the reason that they hit those like very nuanced things is because they have very, very in-depth knowledge. It's because of their experience. They actually have quite a bit of experience that has helped to refine them and their approach, like in certain ways. And I feel like, again, you might be having these two people in front of you that display these very different qualities. Yeah, two sides of the same coin, and context is key. Context is key. Context is key. So put people, places, things in their context. See the wholeness. See what's around them. See the interconnectivity. See the systems. See how one thing flows to another thing. See how there could be another thing here as well, where somebody, again, who's like very good at what they do or something, when they give their like advice, it actually does it plugs right into the whole. It seems like it's like a sound bite, or it seems like it's just one piece of information. But if you follow that, it doesn't fuck you in other areas of your life. There could be, and that just speaks to like a depth of knowledge here, or again, like a depth of experience or understanding. Anyways, okay, I'm gonna stop because I keep trying to pull on this thread, but I feel like that's your process with this, is you're kind of like uncovering the context or something here. So anyways, if that resonates on whatever level, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye guys.